May 1945. Deep in the Pacific, a U.S. airbase prepares for what should have been an ordinary flight. A reward flight. A chance to see a place almost no outsider had ever laid eyes on. A hidden valley, whispered about by pilots who had only ever seen it from the air. For most of them, it was meant to be nothing more than a joyride. Then, without warning, the plane strikes the mountainside. Of the 24 people aboard, only 3 survive.
One of them is Corporal Margaret Hastings, alive, but badly burned.
This valley had never been seen up close by the outside world. To mapmakers, it was simply a blank space, nicknamed Shangri-La by those who had glimpsed it from the air. From above, diverse pilots had spotted signs of life, but no one had ever gone down to meet them. Steep mountains had sealed this valley off from the rest of the world for generations. Nobody outside this valley knew the plane had gone down, or that anyone survived. The 3 survivors were alone, injured, and stranded in unknown territory. Among the dead was Robert, McCollum's own identical twin brother.
There was no time to grieve. Survival came first.
Margaret's burns made walking agony. Every step was a battle.
Staying at the crash site meant staying near the danger of fire and falling debris.
They had no idea what feigned, or what waited beyond the tree line.
They were being watched. The people of this valley had never seen outsiders before. Not once, in their entire history.
When the 2 worlds finally met, neither side knew what to expect.
Slowly, carefully, neither side moved to harm the other. Instead, they were offered food. A fragile trust began to form.
With no shared language, they learned to speak through gesture and expression.
Each side was equally strange and equally fascinating to the other.
In turn, the survivors learned how differently and how skillfully this world had been built. Within days, the valley's people were helping the strangers survive. Days passed. Margaret's wounds worsened without proper medical care. Every day in this hidden valley brought her closer to death from infection. The survivors had no radio, no way to call for help, only hope.
Back at base, the missing plane had already been reported overdue.
Search planes combed the region for any sign of the missing aircraft. Days later, a search plane finally spotted smoke rising from the wreckage. The survivors waved everything they had, praying to be seen.
The plane dipped its wings. They had been found.
But being found was only the beginning. There was still no way out. Days later, Army medics parachuted directly into the valley to treat Margaret's wounds. Her infection was treated just in time to save her life. A cameraman jumped in as well, capturing the entire ordeal on film for the world to see.
For the valley's people, the camera was as strange a wonder as the survivors themselves.
Children for the village came each day, fascinated by these strangers from the sky.
Weeks turned the crash site into something like a temporary home.
Slowly, Margaret's strength began to return.
What began as fear had slowly become something like friendship.
But there was no runway, no road, no way for a normal plane to land or take off.
The only option left was something never attempted at this scale: a glider snatch rescue. The margin for error was almost nothing. Steep ridges on every side, no room to correct a mistake.
A cable system, strung between two poles, would let a low-flying plane hook the glider and rip it into the sky.
The stabilizers ensure a smooth transition to forward flight. No one in the valley had ever seen anything like it. Neither had most of the pilots.
A glider was towed in and released, gliding silently down into the valley itself. It landed hard, but it landed. Survivors, soldiers, and the valley's own people worked side by side to prepare the ground.
Everything now depended on a single, untested maneuver.
The night before the rescue attempt, survivors and villagers shared one last meal together.
There were no words that could cross the language between them, only gratitude.
For McCollum, leaving meant leaving his brother behind, in the valley that had witnessed everything.
None of them slept much that night.
By morning, it was time.
Word had spread through the valley. Everyone had come to see them off.
Margaret, Decker, and McCollum climbed aboard. The valley's people watched in silence.
A transport plane roared in, low and fast.
Lining up with the cable. Lining up with the cable. Contact.
In one instant, they were yanked into the sky.
No runway. No warning. Just raw force.
Within seconds, they were airborne.
Clearing the ridgeline, with only feet to spare.
The impossible rescue had worked.
Below them, the people who had saved their lives watched them disappear into the clouds.
Margaret looked back one last time at the world that had kept her alive.
47 days after the crash, the ordeal was finally over. Margaret Hastings, Kenneth Decker, and John McCollum all survived their ordeal. The footage from their rescue was shown to audiences around the world, making them unlikely celebrities.
For For a brief moment, an ordinary corporal became one of the most famous survivors of the war.
The people of the valley continued their lives, forever marked by this brief, extraordinary contact. The wreckage remained in the mountains, slowly disappearing into the jungle it had fallen from. Decades later, their story would be told again, to a new generation who had never heard it. Today, the valley is known and connected to the outside world, no longer a blank space on any map. But in 1945, for 47 days, it was the entire world to 3 strangers who had fallen from the sky.
2 worlds that had never known the other existed, found a way to trust, to help, and to say goodbye.
Not every survivor of this story got to go home.
Robert McCollum remained in the valley that had claimed his life turned, remembered by the brother who lived. The strip where the impossible rescue happened is barely visible today.
But for the people who live there, the memory of that strange, brief encounter has never fully faded. Not every WW2 story took place on a battlefield.
Some of the greatest tests of courage happened far from the fighting.
In the strength of an injured young woman who refused to give up.
And in the quiet courage of a people who chose kindness over fear when they had every reason not to.